Speaker's favorite words. These are the 7 pillars of wisdom, just as a scheme of things. Some of it is obvious, and I'm really going to be quick about this. First of all, you're already doing this, organize. But by parishes, I mean, and this is what we have learned in Boston, the center of gravity of what you're doing is at the parish level. Do not create a superstructure. With due respect to all of my friends in both, maybe one of them, who still talk to me, I saw the rise and fall of Voice of the Faithful in Boston. And in a strange thing, in strategic game theory, it's known as mirror imaging. Voice of the Faithful became the thing that they had decided to oppose. They were going against a hierarchical, bureaucratic, hidebound organization. They became a hierarchical, bureaucratic, hidebound organization. Keep it at the level of parishes. This is where the vitality is. The Fodys, Jason Berry, have attended some of our meetings. We ain't got no minutes. We ain't got no bylaws. It's the parishes. They can organize themselves as 501c3 nonprofits, or they can be 3 people who walk in and pray. Point number 2, media. I'm not going to beat this one to death, but given the condition of the media, you have to produce your own stories. Gone are the days where you can just send them a press release. The globe is collapsing. I mean, 3 weeks ago, the bright people in the newsroom were offered 2 deals. Either take a 10% pay cut or take a 23% pay cut. They voted in favor of the 23%. That's a long unfolding story. The vigil parishes, and one of their reporters has said that he's bored with the story of the vigil parishes. The vigil parishes will be around long after the globe is gone. Produce your stories. Track what's happening in your diocese. And this means some applied effort. As long as you get a group of people, like Watergate, you've got to follow the money. And as was said during the Clinton impeachment in the Senate, one of the demi-senators stood up and said, you know, if they keep saying that it's not about sex, you can be sure of one thing. It is about sex. And the more they keep telling you it's not about the money, it is about the money. Network beyond your diocese. That's my thing these days. But this is very important now. In a capillary, in a sort of unofficial way, people from Texas who are here with us today, you've got family, relatives, friends, former colleagues at work, Catholics that you've met at conferences. Pass the word. I think Tina said, we will all weigh in to support as best we can. God bless you for how far you have managed to come in a short period of time. Civil suits, think about the feds. Those of you who are interested in the legal stuff we can talk about. Canon appeals, with all of the difficulties and so forth, this is a way to get a message to Rome. Vigils is the most powerful weapon in your armory. But you decide. Sir?
What about outreach to other faith communities? For example, in Cleveland, the senior pastor of the Methodist Church in downtown Cleveland wrote a letter that I saw recently to Archbishop Sandy. This individual was very close friends with our previous bishop, Anthony Pillow. They had a very wonderful relationship. And this Methodist pastor is very Catholic friendly. I think you see some of his education, at Freiburg or one of those places. But the point is, he wrote a long letter. It was a 3-page, single-space letter that was very critical of London and of the pain that he's witnessing. It's not because he's looking to acquire a congregation. He has a very large congregation. But I'm wondering if we should be, because I'm finding that our closest friends are not necessarily other Catholics. I don't see people from Coleman's and Ignatius here today. I really don't.
True. And by the way, if I could, I'll comment on that very quickly. In Boston, when the 83 were announced, 254 had dodged a bullet. 254 parishes, oh, we're fine. 83, you're toast. In the intervening years, I can count on the fingers of one hand the number of spared parishes who reached out to the vigil parishes. That's not one of the great moments in Catholic history, but one of them, I mentioned this, brought a fruit basket to one of the vigil parishes in Everett, and there was a card on it, and the guy said, "I'm sorry, I'm going to have to take this away because we don't want the Archdiocese to know that we are the ones who gave the fruit basket." Now, just a quick thing, and look, let's be clear about something. There's the old joke about the radical who's asked to fill out a security form. Do you advocate the overthrow of the United States by violence or other means? And the kid says, either one, whatever will get the job done. Now, I'm kind of tactical about this. But right now, straightforwardly, my position is we're better Catholics than most of our blankety-blank bishops, which we are. And as they say in Washington, that has the additional advantage of being true. And since I'm trying to open up another front in Rome, I don't want to give the other side the pretext of saying the S word, they're schismatics. And you'd be surprised in how a bishop can twist and turn an interdenominational event into the beginning of a slide into Protestantism or prostitution, or whichever one is worse according to Rome. So, you set your own course. My advice is, first of all, it's a tactical question, which shows you the slabby space that the sleazy space in which I operate. And for the moment, I go to Rome as, God help us all, a very mainstream Catholic. So I'm not going to give him the opportunity for that cheap shot. Yes, ma'am, Carol?
Did you want to address some of the legal options now, or do you want to do that later?
No, we'll do that separately. But speaking of Rome, and this is my conclusion, I don't want to get in the way of lunch, I'm not that silly. Rome, and I do not want to over-portray this. And I want to thank some of the people who participated, like the Fodys in the Diocese of Scranton. The driving idea came in last November when I'm talking to a canon lawyer in Rome, what do we do? And he keeps saying that, you know, there's canon appeals, keep at it, but you're not going to get the relief. And then the light goes on, let's raise it as a policy issue. So fast forward, and those of you who are silly enough to want this, you can have it. We composed an 18-page letter, single-spaced, which is really a statement of how bishops are mucking up parishes in Catholic dioceses. And through some street guerrilla warfare, I managed to deliver it in Rome on Holy Tuesday, April 7th. I landed a few hours after the earthquake hit in L'Aquila. It was the other earthquake that day, I guess. By design, we sent it, addressed it to an individual in the Secretariat of State. Without getting into the organizational boxes, he is really the foreign minister for the Vatican. He's responsible for relations with other governments. And I did this by design because I've got some pals in Rome, and, you know, is there anybody in the Secretariat of State that might read this and think about it? So blah, blah, we got the guy's name. I expected A, to be ignored. Didn't happen. B, I got a letter from him. Actually a fax, and then a service copy. And it was very Roman, and he said, well, on the one hand, the issue that you raised does not really fall within the competence of my office. And he's right. He's responsible for relations between the Vatican as a sovereign state and 200 other sovereign states on the face of the globe. But then he said, but if you wish, you may meet with one of my assistants. So a few weeks ago, June 4th, I was in Rome, and I made my case to a diplomatic counselor who started with the same disclaimer: this doesn't really fall within the competence of our office. But then, and I'm calling it right down the middle, not too good, not too bad, I gave him a kind of an aide-memoire, a memo that laid out briefly what we're asking for, which is to send a signal back to the diocese to enter into direct discussions with these parishioner groups. So he said that he would circulate this note at the high level of the Vatican bureaucracy, including the Congregation for the Clergy and the Congregation for the Bishops, and I added quickly in the Signatura and the press office, and he said yes. He was in the West Wing of the White House. We don't have time for the atmospherics, which were absolutely fascinating. It took me 40 minutes to clear all of the security, the cordons, and all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the meeting, Monsignor Paolo